In a small but cozy town where everyone knew each other lived a boy named Michael. His family was one of those firmly rooted in the place, and for generations had maintained a tradition of kindness and hospitality. Michael was African American, and although their family was one of the few in town, no one ever looked at them differently. On the contrary, they were respected and appreciated for their sincerity and involvement in the community. Michael grew up in a loving and caring environment from childhood. His parents, James and Martha, were an example of a true family, full of warmth and understanding. Michael's father worked as a teacher in the local school, where he was respected for his fairness and ability to find a way to approach each student. His mother was a nurse in the city hospital and was known for her kindness and ability to support in a difficult moment. Michael was proud to tell his friends that his parents were always ready to help anyone in need. From his earliest childhood, Michael was an active and cheerful child. He loved to run through green meadows, play ball with his friends, and explore the neighborhood. The whole town knew this smiling boy who was always ready to share his good mood. He was the soul of any company, and everyone from toddlers to adults reached out to him. If one of the children fell down or got upset, Michael was the first to run up to help and encourage. Often in the evenings, Michael's family would gather on the porch of their home. His father would read stories aloud, and Michael, nestled between his parents, would listen intently, sometimes interrupting with questions or making his own little remarks.
Daddy.
Michael once asked when his father had finished a story.
Why is everyone in our stories always so kind and honest? And if someone gets angry, they always apologize and become good.
That's because, Michael,
James smiled.
we try to tell you how the world should be. People can make mistakes, they can be angry, but it's important to be able to admit your mistakes and become a better person.
But Dad, is it really that simple?
Michael asked thoughtfully, trying to make sense of what he had heard.
No, son,
His mother said, stroking his head.
life isn't always easy. But if you try to be kind and fair, even when it is difficult, the world around you will become a little better.
These words were deeply embedded in the boy's soul. He grew up realizing that a person's real strength lies not in physical strength, but in kindness and the ability to forgive. And every time Michael faced difficulties, he remembered the conversations with his parents and found the strength to do the right thing. In addition, Michael was a very intelligent and inquisitive child. At school, he showed great interest in all subjects, especially in science and literature. Teachers noticed his diligence and desire to learn as much as possible. Sometimes he asked questions that even adults could not answer at once.
Mrs. Clark. Tew?
He once asked his teacher as they were studying the starry sky.
Do you think the stars live their lives like people? Are they born and die?
The teacher smiled, a little surprised at the boy's depth of thought.
Yes, Michael, stars are indeed born and die, like all living things in the universe, but their lives are very long compared to ours. They give light and warmth to billions of worlds, and when they fade away, new stars take their place. It's an amazing process, and it reminds us that everything in this world is connected.
Michael thought about her words, imagining the incredible processes taking place in the distant sky that he was just beginning to learn about. His eyes shone with curiosity and delight as he took in the new knowledge. Meanwhile, as time went on, and despite his active and inquisitive nature, Michael never forgot his friends. He was the one to whom one could always turn for help or advice. When any of the boys faced a problem, whether it was a quarrel or a setback, Michael would find the words to support and help find a way out. Because of this, he was valued and respected not only by his peers, but also by adults.
Michael, you are a true friend.
Once told him his best friend Tommy, when Michael helped him solve a difficult math problem.
I'd be a mess without you.
Don't worry, Tommy.
Michael said with a smile.
Together we can solve any problem. The main thing is not to be afraid to ask if you don't understand something.
That's how his childhood years passed, surrounded by love, support, and loyal friends. Life in a small town was calm and happy. It seemed that nothing could mar Michael's serene childhood, and his future was to be as bright and joyful. However, fate was preparing the boy a test that would completely change his life, forcing him to reconsider many of the values that he had so long absorbed from childhood. But until then, Michael continued to enjoy every day of his carefree youth, surrounded by the love of his family and the support of friends. Life flowed smoothly and quietly, like a river on a summer afternoon, and there was no sign of the changes that lay ahead. When Michael turned 10 years old, his life suddenly changed. That day, everything started as usual. On a sunny morning, Michael woke up in his cozy room, had breakfast with his parents, and went to school. But no one could have predicted that this very day something terrible and inexplicable would happen that would change his fate forever. During lunch, when Michael was playing in the schoolyard with his friends, he suddenly felt a strange tingling sensation on his face. At first it seemed mild and unnoticeable, but the sensation intensified with each passing minute. Michael touched his face, thinking that perhaps an insect had bitten him, but found nothing. He tried to ignore it, but the tingling turned into intense pain. He ran to the school nurse's office, thinking he just needed to treat the bite site. When he entered the nurse's office, Mrs. Jenkins, she noticed his face begin to change right before her eyes. The skin on his cheeks bloated, darkened, and began to take on an ugly shape. The eyes that had always shone with kindness and curiosity began to hide behind puffy eyelids. It was like a terrible nightmare from which no one could wake up. Mrs. Jenkins gasped and, unable to hide her shock, involuntarily took a step back.
Michael, what? What's going on?
Her voice shook, her eyes filled with anxiety that turned to fear.
I don't know.
Michael whispered, feeling tears come to his eyes.
It hurts, Mrs. Jenkins. It hurts a lot.
She tried to pull herself together, but the boy's face continued to change, becoming more and more distorted. She quickly contacted Michael's parents and called an ambulance, hoping the doctors could explain this strange phenomenon. At the hospital, Michael was examined, but no one could find the cause of such a sudden and unexplained transformation. All the tests and examinations showed that he was perfectly healthy. But Michael's face continued to change, becoming more and more ugly and frightening. Michael's parents were desperate. They went to doctors, looked for answers in books, and even turned to alternative medicine, but no one could help. Doctors would only throw up their hands, saying they had never encountered anything like this before. The boy's face, once beautiful and cheerful, now seemed monstrous, as if he had been touched by a dark force that no one could explain. When Michael returned to school after a long absence, all eyes were fixed on him. The kids who had once been his friends now looked at him with horror and contempt. He could feel their gazes burning through him, and realized that they no longer saw him as the kind and cheerful Michael they had known. Now he was just a freak they avoided.
What happened to you, Michael?
Asked Tommy, his former best friend, who couldn't hide the disgust in his voice. Michael looked at him sadly.
I don't know, Tommy. I don't understand it myself.
His voice was quiet, almost trembling.
I'm still the same Michael. Except...
Tommy clenched his fists and took a step back.
You look like a monster, Michael. How can we play with you now? How can we even look at you?
Those words were like a knife in Michael's heart. He was hurt not so much physically as mentally. He could see that inner anguish reflected on his face, his lips trembling in pain, and he realized there was nothing he could do to take it all back. The kids started avoiding him, and every day at school became a torment. No one wanted to sit at the same desk with him, and even the teachers who had previously treated him with warmth now shunned him, avoiding unnecessary contact. Michael stayed home more and more often, avoiding the places where he used to be happy. He no longer had any friends, and even the walks around town, which he had loved so much, had become an ordeal. People on the street would turn around when they saw him, whispering and pointing fingers. Some even crossed to the other side of the road, just to avoid meeting his gaze. His parents saw their once cheerful son become withdrawn, the joy in his eyes fading, giving way to pain and loneliness. Martha often cried at night, not knowing how to help her child, and James tried unsuccessfully to find answers and solutions. One evening, sitting down to dinner, which Michael had barely touched, James decided to talk to his son.
Michael,
He began softly.
Mom and I are very worried about you. We can see how hard this is for you. But son, we don't know how to help you if you won't talk to us.
Michael looked up at his father, his eyes wide with pain.
Dad,
He said, in a choked voice.
I know you're trying. But I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know how to go back to the way things were before. Things have changed and I can't fix it.
Martha couldn't hold back her tears and walked over to her son and put her arms around him. She could feel him shaking with suppressed tears and tried to convey her love and support to him.
We love you, Michael,
She said, stroking his back.
and we'll always be with you, no matter how hard things get. You must remember that you are our son, and we will never leave you.
Michael squeezed his parents' hands, feeling their warmth and support, but a storm was raging inside him. He knew his parents loved him, but that couldn't take away the feelings of rejection and loneliness that were now his constant companions. That day, when his face suddenly and irreversibly changed, was the beginning of a long and difficult journey for Michael. A path on which he had to learn to cope with inner and outer demons, to find the strength not only to live on, but also to preserve his humanity and faith in goodness. After an inexplicable tragedy that changed the face of Michael, his life became completely different. What had once seemed natural and serene to him now became a nightmare. People who once cheerfully greeted him on the street now looked away, crossed the road, or even outright avoided him. The world that Michael had lived in and known since birth had become alien and hostile to him. Michael tried to carry on as before, but every day brought him new disappointments. The friends he once spent all his free time with were now turning their backs on him. Tommy, his best friend who had always been there for him, avoided seeing him, didn't return his calls, and didn't come to visit. When Michael tried to talk to him, Tommy would just stare at the ground and quickly find an excuse to leave.
Tommy, wait.
Michael shouted one day as he caught up with his friend in the schoolyard.
I'm still the same Michael. Why are you avoiding me?
Tommy hesitated, looking at his shoes, and then reluctantly looked up at Michael.
I don't know.
He mumbled, visibly nervous.
Everything's different, I just don't know what to do with you now.
But nothing's changed.
Michael retorted painfully.
I'm still the same person I was before. I'm still your friend.
Tommy was silent for a moment, but then clenched his teeth, and without another word he turned and walked away, leaving Michael alone in the schoolyard. This episode was particularly painful for Michael. He realized that he couldn't go back to the way things used to be. Every day he sank deeper into loneliness. Friends and acquaintances stopped talking to him, and adults, seeing him on the street, hurriedly turned away or found an excuse not to talk to him. School, which had once been a place of joy and discovery, was now a prison where every step brought him new humiliation and suffering. Teachers, who once praised him for his academic success, now looked at him with pity or even fear. At lessons, Michael tried not to attract attention, but it only aggravated the situation. He began to tease and bully. In class, he sat alone, on the back of the desk, and felt the loneliness suffocating him. Every day he dreaded encountering another mocking look or hearing another insult. One day after school, Michael took the familiar route home. It seemed to him that the whole world had turned away from him. As he passed familiar houses, he could feel the people inside hiding as he approached. Suddenly, he heard someone whispering loudly behind his back.
This is the boy who became ugly. They say it's a curse.
Michael stopped, trying not to show how much those words hurt him. He clenched his fists and walked on, speeding up his steps, hoping to get home, where he could hide from this hostile world at least for a while. His parents welcomed him home, but even their support could not fully heal the wounds that his words and actions had inflicted on him. They tried to support him, to surround him with love, but Michael realized that they too were suffering from what had happened to him. He saw his mother crying at night, thinking he was asleep, and his father sitting at dinner, trying to hide his anxiety behind a strained smile.
Michael. Michael.
The father said one evening, putting his hand on his son's shoulder.
You know we'll always be there for you. I know it's hard for you right now, but you have to remember that you're strong and we'll get through this together.
Michael nodded, but an emptiness was growing inside him. He no longer believed that he would ever be able to go back to normal. Every day he grew more and more distant from people, hiding in his world of pain and loneliness. He spent hours sitting in his room, closing the curtains and immersing himself in books or drawing, which became his only solace. In these books he sought answers to the questions that tormented his soul, and in drawings he tried to express the pain that could not find an outlet in words. But every time he looked in the mirror, he saw his reflection, a face that was now distorted, as if it was someone else's, and that reflection reminded him of how much he had changed, and how much the world around him had changed. Michael began to avoid mirrors. He could no longer look at his face, which had become the source of all his troubles. He began to put on a hood, hiding his face from others, trying to become invisible. But it didn't help. People still felt his presence, their fear of him grew, and this made Michael shut himself in more and more. One evening, when darkness had already enveloped the city, Michael sat in his room and, feeling deep despair, picked up the phone to call the only person with whom he had not yet lost contact, his grandmother, who lived in another city and rarely saw him.
Grandma. Dondi.
He said quietly when she answered.
I can't live like this anymore. Everyone avoids me. Everyone is afraid of me. I don't know who I am anymore.
Michael, honey.
He heard her soft voice that always soothed him.
You mustn't let them break you. People can be afraid of what they don't understand. But you remain what you've always been, kind and honest. Time will sort things out.
But how can I stay kind when there's so much pain around me?
His voice trembled from holding back tears.
Son, kindness and fortitude are things no one can take away from you unless you let it happen. I know this is hard for you, but know that you are not alone. We all love you and you will find your way, even if right now you feel like all is lost.
Those words were like a breath of fresh air to Michael. He realized that despite his loneliness, he still had those who loved him and believed in him. And even though the world around him seemed cold and cruel, there was still a spark of hope inside him that, however small, continued to burn. So he went on with his life, coping with loneliness and rejection. Michael realized that he would have to learn to live with what he had become, and that perhaps someday he would find a way to reclaim his life or create a new one, strong, independent, and most importantly, happy. Michael's teenage years were full of trials and internal struggles. After his face changed, he found himself at the center of everyone's fear and rejection, and this outsider status stayed with him for years. School, which was once a place of joy and friends, became a maze of prejudice and loneliness. With each passing day, Michael found himself sinking more and more into seclusion as the people around him continued to shun and judge him. This prejudice surrounded him everywhere, from classrooms and school corridors to public places. However, despite his isolation, Michael retained that spark of kindness that had been a part of his character from an early age. He realized that being angry at the world and at himself was not going to make a difference. Instead, he focused his efforts on what he could control: school and work. Michael realized that this was the only way to get away from the constant stress and pain. Studying became not only a way for him to fill a void, but also a means to achieve goals and assert himself. Michael would wake up early every morning to study for class materials, and then after school activities, he would spend time studying for extra classes. He always tried to be the best at his studies, immersing himself in books and research, eager to learn as much as he could. This discipline and pursuit of knowledge became his way of coping with his internal stress and lack of social connections. His academic success caught the attention of some teachers, who were still among the few who were willing to be sympathetic and supportive. In addition to his studies, Michael began working part-time at a local store. This allowed him not only to earn some money, but also to feel useful. Working at the store was not only a source of income for him, but also a way for him to interact with other people, albeit at the cashier level. He endeavored to perform his duties with the utmost accuracy and courtesy, which allowed him to gain the respect and trust of the store owner. Although Michael continued to face bias and wariness from the locals, he strived to maintain his inner balance. He saw every negative word or look as a challenge he had to overcome. He knew he could not change the opinions of those around him, but he could change his attitude towards these situations. In his interactions with the store's customers, he always remained kind and helpful despite how he was perceived. Michael also found solace in hobbies. In his spare time, he took up painting and writing. These activities became an outlet for him, where he could express his feelings and experiences. In his drawings and texts, he found a way to convey his emotions and create a world where he could be whoever he wanted to be. This allowed him to deal with his inner pain and express himself in a way that was only available to him. Although his teenage years were filled with loneliness and hardship, Michael did not allow himself to become embittered or lose faith in people. He continued to believe in the values his parents instilled in him: kindness, honesty, and hard work. This faith helped him maintain a positive attitude toward life, despite external circumstances. He knew that if he could change anything in his life, it would be through his inner state and effort. Michael did not allow himself to give in to despair. Every day he found small joys and consolations, whether it was in the form of praise from a teacher, a supportive word from a customer at the store, or a new drawing he created. These little things became a source of hope and strength for him. His patience and hard work began to pay off. His results in school and at work got better and better, which gave him hope for the future. Thus, Michael's teenage years were a time of challenge and self-discovery. His life was shrouded in the shadows of prejudice and isolation, but he retained the kindness and industriousness that were part of his essence. This inner strength and drive for self-development allowed him to not only survive, but to find meaning and joy in the aspects of life that he could control. As an adult, Michael's life continued to move on, but there was a deep emptiness and loneliness that he learned to cope with by drawing on his inner resources and finding solace in his work and hobbies. His appearance continued to arouse fear and prejudice in those around him, and despite his achievements in his studies and work, he never found the genuine human connections that would have been a source of joy and support for him. But that all changed the day he met Emily. Emily was a girl who stood out from the crowd at first sight. Her beauty wasn't just in her looks, but in her inner light and the kindness she radiated. Her gaze was sincere and warm, and her presence was soothing. She possessed that rare quality that made people feel comfortable and confident, regardless of their own worries and fears. Emily worked at the local library, and her job involved serving readers and organizing events. This place became not just a job for her, but a true calling where she could show her love for books and people. The first time Michael saw Emily was when he walked into the library to find a history book he had long wanted to read. He was especially immersed in his thoughts and feelings that day when he entered the library and didn't notice that she was in the hall. Emily noticed him immediately and, seeing that he was looking for something specific, approached him to offer help. It was the moment their paths crossed. She approached Michael with an open and warm expression on her face, which immediately caught his attention. Although Michael was used to prejudice and avoidance from those around him, Emily didn't show an ounce of fear or dislike. She looked at him with genuine interest and attention. This was unusual and pleasing to Michael, who hadn't felt this way in a long time. As they chatted, Michael noticed that Emily was not looking at him as a person with a distorted face, but as a person with interests and feelings. She was asking questions about his interests, asking about what he cared about and was interested in. It was a new experience for him to feel that he was perceived as a complete person. He noticed that her presence made him feel a sense of comfort and calmness that he hadn't felt in a long time. Emily and Michael began to spend time together. At first it was short meetings at the library, then they began walking together in parks, discussing books, movies, and personal interests. Emily found that Michael was an intelligent, deeply feeling man who showed a genuine interest in life and culture. He often shared with her his thoughts and ideas that he had kept to himself for a long time, and this helped him to open up about his feelings and experiences. Gradually, Michael began to feel more confident. Emily became not only a friend to him, but also a source of inspiration. He saw in her the kindness and support he lacked, and it gave him the strength to keep moving forward. Their relationship grew, and Michael began to notice how much his life was changing for the better because of this special bond. Emily brought bright colors and emotions into his life that he hadn't felt in a long time. She not only accepted him as a person, but also helped him deal with his inner fears and doubts. They spent a lot of time together discussing various topics, traveling and enjoying the simple pleasures of life. For Michael, who had been immersed in loneliness for a long time, this connection was a true miracle. Over time, Michael realized that his life had become much fuller and brighter thanks to Emily. She saw in him not just a man with an unusual appearance, but a personality with a rich inner world. Thanks to her presence, Michael began to believe in himself and in the possibility of change. He felt that despite all the difficulties and trials, life can bring joy and satisfaction. Emily became for him not just a friend, but a person who helped him find a new purpose and meaning in life. Thus, meeting Emily changed Michael's life. She became a source of hope and inspiration for him, helped him overcome loneliness and find new strength to fight against difficulties. Their relationship became not only a symbol of love and understanding, but also an example of how kindness and humanity can change life for the better. When Michael and Emily began spending time together, a special bond developed between them that grew stronger every day. Emily, with her deep empathy and inner light, saw more in Michael than just his looks. She revealed to him a world full of warmth and support, and he responded in kind. Emily became the person who was able to see behind the outer shells of a real personality, capable of deep feelings and sincere love. As time passed, their relationship evolved, becoming more and more meaningful to both of them. Their affection for each other only grew stronger, even though society still viewed them with wariness and prejudice. People continued to judge Michael and look at his appearance with distrust, but to Emily it didn't matter. She was sure of her feelings and knew that her love for Michael was sincere and true. Gradually, Michael also began to realize that his feelings for Emily had grown into more than just friendship. He began to see her as his support and encouragement, feeling how her love allowed him to see the world in a new way. In her he found not only understanding and respect, but a genuine love that was able to heal the many wounds of his heart. The feelings were mutual, and each day spent together strengthened their bond. When Michael and Emily decided that they were ready to take the next step in their relationship, it was not a spontaneous decision. It came after much thought, and the realization that their love had overcome all the obstacles and challenges the world had put in front of them. For both of them, this step was not just a formality, but a confirmation of their sincere feelings and affection. The wedding was an event that brought not only joy and happiness in their lives, but also served as an example for others. Although society did not immediately accept their choice, many began to look at them with respect as they watched their love and support for each other grow stronger. Their wedding was not only a celebration of their personal happiness, but also a symbol of how true love can overcome any obstacle. Emily and Michael had a wedding celebration that was modest but full of meaning. It was an event where they were able to express their feelings to each other and demonstrate to those around them that true love does not depend on appearances or preconceptions. They exchanged vows in a circle of close friends and family who supported them in this important moment. There was a sense of deep joy and pride in that circle that they had found each other and were able to build a life filled with love and respect. After the wedding, Michael and Emily's lives continued to be filled with meaning and joy. They built their home where they found comfort and harmony. Emily continued her work at the library, contributing to the community, and Michael developed his hobbies and continued to work. They supported each other as they faced challenges and enjoyed successes together. Their love became an inspiration to others. People who were previously skeptical began to see that their connection was not just a romantic story, but an example of how genuine feelings can change lives and break stereotypes. Gradually, society began to view them not through the lens of prejudice, but through the lens of their accomplishments and happiness. Michael and Emily lived full and fulfilling lives, strengthening their love and supporting each other. Their marriage exemplified the power of love and tolerance, showing that true feelings can overcome any obstacle, be it social norms or personal trials. They proved that true love does not pay attention to appearances, but looks deeper, into the essence of the human soul. Thus, their story not only became a symbol of personal happiness, but also served as a lesson for others. Michael and Emily demonstrated that true love can do much. It can change perceptions and overcome any obstacle, turning hardship into an opportunity for growth and joy. Their life together was proof that sincere affection and support can bring happiness and fulfillment, despite whatever challenges they face. But on Michael and Emily's wedding day, something happened that seemed unbelievable and inexplicable. Their story, filled with hardships and trials, came to a climax when all the dreams and hopes they held in their hearts came true. From early morning, Michael was overwhelmed with excitement and joy. In anticipation of this day, he was going through a whole gamut of emotions, from happiness to uncertainty. His appearance, which had long been a source of anguish and prejudice, remained a constant reminder to him of the difficulties of the past. But on this particular day, he felt that everything could change. Emily's gaze, her faith in him, and her love gave him strength he didn't even know he had. The wedding ceremony was decorated with simple but elegant decorations reflecting the couple's taste and preferences. Standing beside Michael were close friends and family who had supported them through the difficult times and were happy to see them finally united in marriage. Emily, dressed in a gorgeous wedding dress, looked like the epitome of beauty and grace, her eyes glowing with love and happiness. When the ceremony came to a climax, and it was time to say the vows, it was filled with a special, almost mystical feeling. It was as if the very atmosphere around them was imbued with a deep love and hope that penetrated into the hearts of everyone present. It was at this moment, as Michael stood in front of Emily, that his face began to change. Slowly, the change began to show. It was like a miracle. His features gradually became more harmonious, his skin took on a healthy and even tone. Michael himself felt his appearance change, but at first it was so unexpected that he could hardly believe his sensations. He saw his reflection in the mirror becoming more and more attractive and confident. It wasn't just a physical transformation, but a symbolic change that reflected the deep change within him. Emily, watching what was happening, couldn't hold back tears of happiness. She knew that her love and support were the forces that could change not only Michael's inner state, but also his appearance. She saw Michael begin to glow and realized that it was her faith in him and sincere affection that were the catalysts for this miracle. The love they shared was so powerful that it was able to transform Michael not only emotionally, but physically as well. Michael felt his insecurities and fears that had haunted him for so long fade away. With each passing moment he became more and more confident. as if a heavy burden had been lifted, he could truly feel the joy and happiness that had previously been beyond his reach. His appearance, which had always been a reminder of suffering and prejudice, was now a symbol of change and a new beginning. As Michael and Emily exchanged vows, those around them noticed this transformation. Everyone present was amazed at what had happened. People who had previously looked at Michael with wariness now saw a man in front of them who radiated confidence and calmness. This transformation not only changed Michael, but it left a deep impression on everyone who attended the ceremony. It was a clear testament to the power of love and faith. From the moment their new life together began, Michael and Emily began to build a future filled with new possibilities and joy. Michael, now feeling confident and accepted, was able to fully realize his abilities and talents. He continued to work and grow, but now with a self-confidence that was the result of Emily's love and support. His transformation became a symbol of their relationship, a strength that was able to change his life for the better. Emily, for her part, was delighted to see Michael transformed not only outwardly, but inwardly as well. She realized that their love and faith in each other was the foundation of this miracle. This day was not only the beginning of their life together, but also proof that true love can work miracles. Michael's transformation on this special day symbolized the beginning of a new era for both of them. It was a time when they could leave behind old fears and doubts and start building a life full of hope and happiness. Their story was not only a personal achievement, but also an example of how love and support can change the world and the person it touches. Thus, this day became not only a celebration of their love, but also a symbol of the power of human emotion and faith. Michael and Emily began a new life full of joy and new possibilities, and their transformation was a vivid testimony that love is truly capable of miracles. After their wedding, Michael and Emily began a new chapter of their lives filled with hope and possibility. With a re-evaluation of his life and the support of his loved one, Michael felt it was time to realize his dreams and aspirations that he had long put off due to constant bias and personal doubts. One of those dreams was starting his own business, which had long been swirling in his thoughts as a way to put his skills and knowledge to practical use. Michael knew it would be a big step, but he was filled with determination and confidence that Emily's love and support gave him. He decided to start a company dedicated to developing and selling innovative technologies related to eco-friendly solutions. This idea was the result of his long thought and research, and he felt it would not only bring him personal satisfaction, but also help improve the world around him. Emily, knowing how important this project was to Michael, actively supported his endeavors. She helped him with organizational issues, provided moral support, and used her connections and knowledge to promote his idea. Together they developed a business plan that became the foundation for the future success of their company. She believed in his abilities and knew that Michael was capable of achieving great heights if supported and motivated. The process of starting a business was not an easy one. Michael faced many challenges, from obtaining financing to finding reliable partners and suppliers. Despite all the challenges, he showed incredible determination and perseverance. His experience and skills gained through years of work and study began to bear fruit. Gradually, his company began to gain momentum, and the first products began to find their customers. Due to the quality of his products and services, as well as an effective business strategy, Michael quickly gained respect in his industry. His company became known not only for its innovative approach, but also for its high level of customer service. This allowed him to not only stabilize the business, but also to scale it significantly. With each passing year, his company became more and more successful, attracting new investments and expanding its market. Success in business brought Michael not only financial prosperity, but also public recognition. He began receiving awards for his achievements in his field and became a respected person in the business community. Michael was invited to various conferences and seminars where he shared his experience and knowledge with other entrepreneurs. This not only enhanced his reputation, but also allowed him to expand his network of contacts, which in turn helped to further develop his business. Emily continued to be by his side, actively supporting Michael and helping him run the business. They worked together on projects, organized social events, and did charity work, which strengthened their position in the community and made them an example of a successful couple. There was always a loving and supportive atmosphere in their home, and this helped them to cope with any difficulties. Michael and Emily's family life was full of happiness and harmony. They created a cozy home where they often spent time with family and friends. Their family expanded when they had children, and they found joy in raising their little ones. Michael and Emily devoted a lot of time to their family, trying to balance career accomplishments with personal happiness. This balance allowed them to build a life in which they were able to enjoy both professional success and family happiness. They were also active in the community, supporting various charitable organizations and projects. Their contributions to society were further evidence of their values and aspirations. Michael and Emily believed that their success should be used not only for personal gain, but also to improve the lives of others. This approach helped them stay connected to reality and realize the importance of their actions in a broader context. In this way, Michael and Emily's lives became an example of a successful combination of professional achievement and personal happiness. Their story has become a symbol of how perseverance, belief in oneself, and the support of loved ones can lead to significant success. Michael, who was once a man who faced bias and hardship, was able to realize his dreams and become a successful and respected businessman because of Emily's love and support. Their family, built on mutual love and respect, has been a source of joy and inspiration to those around them. Together, they have created a life of meaning, happiness and well-being, and have become an example of how true love and support can lead to true miracles and significant life achievements.